Radio TV phono nut here, and we have a circa 1946-47 4-tube Arvin metal cased midget radio. Cosmetically it's in pretty good shape. It's got a few scratches and dings on them, nothing bad enough to make me want to repaint the cabinet, and we're missing the volume knob, but considering how common these sets are, it shouldn't be too terribly hard to find a replacement knob from a junker. And we still have our back cover in place, as you can see. If I had to choose between a missing back and a missing knob, I'd take the missing knob, because I think the knob would be easier to find. On many of these radios, the back cover ended up being MIA because the owners would remove the back to service the tubes and then never put the back in place. As you can tell, the cord has been cut off, and if we look closely here, we can see some black carbon tracking here. So I think it's a pretty safe bet what happened. This cord was in bad shape. Somebody plugged the radio in, and then the fireworks took place, and then someone cut the power cord off. Looking at the bottom, it has our two original chassis mounting screws, so I really don't think this set's been messed with that much. Originally this would have had about a 25-foot antenna shank on it coming out the back here, but that's long gone. We'll have to replace that with something. This uses 4 octal tubes, a 12 SA7 oscillator mixer, a 12 SQ7 first audio and detector, a 50L6 audio output, and a 35Z5 rectifier. Of course, this is a super het, but it does not have an IF amplifier stage. And generally speaking, these radios are considered city radios, which means they're mainly good for local stations only. However, considering what these are, they do perform better than one might expect. Now, I was reading an article where someone was talking about changing out the 12 SA7 and converting it to a 12 BA7 to give it more gain, but I don't know how well that would work with something like this, because you have no IF stage. So if you give it more gain, that's just going to seem to me like that would worsen your selectivity, because you don't have the IF stage there to provide a bandpass filter of 455 kilocycles. So I'll let them modify their radio if they want to. I think I'm going to leave this one all original. You might say, but you modify phonographs to use higher gain amplifiers, why would you not modify the radio for better performance? Well, it's simple. The only reason I modify the phonographs is because we can no longer get the proper 3-volt crystal cartridges that they need, so in order to make them useful, we have to modify them so where a lower output cartridge will work. However, this radio, we can still keep the existing design, and it will be still very much so useful. So with that said, let's get it apart and try to fix it up. Shouldn't be much to this. If the oscillator coil and antenna coil are good, it should probably be relatively easy to fix this. And with the back panel removed, we can more clearly see the burn mark that took place when the fireworks occurred. So I suppose the first order of business here is to replace the power cord, and looking at the chassis, it looks to be in pretty good shape, but I don't think we have any original tubes. They all appear to be an assortment of brands other than Arvin. And there's the underside of the chassis, which looks to be pretty much untouched. Alright, power cord replaced, radio plugged into the redneck dim bulb tester, which in this case is a 60-watt incandescent bulb, and if something shorts, the bulb will take the brunt of it. So let's turn the radio on and see if anybody's home. Okay, we had a dim glow in the bulb there. That's a good sign. That means our tube filaments are intact, also indicated by the tubes lighting up. I suspect the filter capacitor is going to be dried out. Turn the volume up there. Alright, I'm not hearing anything. No hum, no nothing. Tubes are lighting up, but the bulb is not glowing at all. Alright, the rectifier tube doesn't appear to be fully seated, and let's see if that has anything to do with it. Alright, it appears that nobody's home, so it's time to go procure the voltmeter and do some checks and see if we can find out why nobody's home. Alright, radio is powered up. The DC, our DMM is set to measure DC voltage with the negative lead connected to B minus. And the first thing I want to do is check the plate and screen grid voltages on the audio output tube. So let's find those pins right now. Okay, pin 8, that's the cathode. We'll go ahead and check that. Probably nothing there at all. Okay, 4.7 volts, so we have a little something there. Alright. Alright, where is pin 5? Alright, pin 5 has 1.2 volts. That's the control grid, so that indicates this coupling cap is leaky. Either that or the tube is gassy. Now let's look at pin 4, which should be our screen grid. And we have 52 volts there. That's low, but at least we have something. Now let's look at our plate. We have 77 volts there, so that's good. That indicates that the primary winding of the audio output transformer is good, and it also indicates that our power supply is at least developing B plus voltage. Now let's move back to the 12SQ7, check the plate voltage there, and just work our way back. Alright, I've got 39 volts on the plate of the 12SQ7. That's reasonably acceptable. Now let me touch the center pin of the volume control and see if I get any action. Alright, I'm getting no action at all out of the volume control, and we're getting nothing from the speaker, so I'm sure this filter capacitor is dried out, which means if we should be getting some hum out of the speaker. So I'm going to disconnect one of the secondary leads on this transformer, and we're going to ohm out the secondary winding of the transformer as well as the speaker and make sure it's okay. Now another way I could do this would be to take a 9-volt battery and just connect it across the primary of the audio output transformer, and if all is well I should hear a click in the speaker, but I don't have a 9-volt battery up here and I don't want to go find one, so I'm just going to unsolder this secondary winding, ohm out the speaker voice coil, and then ohm out the secondary winding of the audio output transformer. We have the secondary winding of the transformer severed from the speaker, so let's see what we have here. Okay, the audio output transformer secondary winding is good, and we know the primary winding is good because we have B plus on the plate of the tube. Now let's check the speaker. And the speaker looks to be the culprit. 6.3 megohms. Well, that's obviously not right. I would be expecting something like 3.2 ohms, something around those lines. So let's go get a test speaker and clip it in here and see what happens. If you've noticed, I have not replaced a single capacitor in here yet. And for those who don't know, I don't like to just go in and shotgun replace all of the capacitors in a piece of equipment. I like to troubleshoot it and at least see where we are before going hog wild with changing parts. Because what if I recap it and find something major is wrong with it that might be expensive or impossible to fix? Or what if I, in the process of shotgunning all of the caps, introduce another problem that I end up having to chase my tail to fix whenever I get through? So like I said, I'd rather just troubleshoot one the old-fashioned way and repair as needed. and then when it's all done, generally the caps will all be replaced, but that's only after I know that everything else is okay. Alright, let me go find a test speaker and clip it in here, and then we'll see what happens. Alright, we have the speaker connected, and I anticipate hearing some 60 cycle hum here in a few moments when the tubes warm up. Yep. And it sounds like I hear a station. Yes, I do.
Marketing, they know all the ins and outs of it. Jordan played 14 years and he won 6 championships. What happened to those other? I'm just ask you one question.
Okay, so we know the electrolytic filter capacitor is bad, but since we hear stations, then that tells us that all the major organs are good, like the oscillator coil, the antenna coil, and the IF transformer. Alright, I have some electrolytic capacitors temporarily clipped into place. What? Why ain't it working? Because I had my clip lead on the wrong point. I didn't have it on B-.
There's some holes in that resin. It's not a clean resin. 6 for 6! Okay, but he didn't play 6 years. Yeah, but he played 14 years.
Well, what I'm saying is,
He's been more consistent, better, consistently,
And as you can
year in,
tell,
year
it's
out, putting up the
working.
minutes and everything else. Was your Jordan better than...
Okay, this is doing pretty good because I only have a short clip lead on here for an antenna, and it's picking up 1450, which is relatively probably the weakest of the 4 stations we have.
okay.
So that's 1450,
Any
and
of those
also
guys
we're
in
still
Hall
on
of
the
Fame?
light bulb, so our
As Michigan misses the field
voltage
goal,
will be
it's
reduced.
a timeout.
1390. That sounds like 910,
Each of these teams that he beat.
and there's 1010 that carries the same programming as 1450 when they're doing sports.
Jordan was responsible for a whole era. Best NBA player.
So I'd say this is not too bad, all things considered.
That's all I'm saying. Dirk Nowitzki by himself beat LeBron James in a super team. Just FYI.
So basically all this is going to need is a recap and a new speaker, but changing the speaker is going to be a bit of a challenge because the old speaker has a bracket on it for mounting the audio output transformer, and any new speaker we have is not going to have that provision, so we're going to have to come up with a creative way to mount the audio output transformer.
Why did they get a second attempt? Apparently a penalty.
So for right now, that's about all I'm going to do to this radio. At a later date, this will get a proper restoration, which will include all new electrolytic and paper capacitors. Any resistors that are out of tolerance will be replaced. Of course, we'll replace the speaker, do an alignment on it, and permanently attach an antenna wire, and this ought to be good to go. Just to let you know, there's probably not going to be any new videos for a while. Right now we're facing some health issues with my mother. I'm not going to get into all the details, but there's probably going to have to be some difficult decisions made in the coming days or weeks, so I'm not really going to have a lot of time to devote to electronics and videos, and quite frankly, with everything that's going on, it's kind of hard getting my head wrapped around electronics and videos anyway. But just wanted to put this up to let you know what was going on, and whenever I can get something new up, I will put it up. I've got some old video material that's 6 months to a year old. If I get a chance, I'll try to put some of that together and upload it, but just to let you know, don't be sitting by the computer looking for new videos from me on a regular basis, because it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. Alright, so we're going to remove all this mess. It's getting dark. I'm going to put all this back together and call it a day. This is Radio TV Phono Nut, and we're back with my metal Arvin series string midget radio sitting on top of our metal grounded table on a humid, damp day, doing all the things you're not supposed to do, freaking people out. I guess this is one of those situations where do as I say, not do as I do, but you know, I've been doing this long enough that I'm not going to do anything stupid and electrocute myself. You might recall in the previous video regarding this set that we evaluated it and we determined that the speaker has an open voice coil and the filter capacitor is shot. So today we're going to open this back up since we know that all the major organs are good, and we're going to do a cap and resistor change out as needed, and then do something about the speaker, and then align it, and we ought to have a decent little radio here. Alright, I found a wiring error, probably factory. This doesn't look like something that somebody did. It obviously didn't stop the radio from working, but we're going to wire it back like the schematic says. If you look at pin 8 of the 35Z5, that's the cathode, and we have a 15 ohm surge current limiting resistor there. Now, according to the schematic here, which I'll show you in just a moment, the resistor connects to the cathode, and that's the only thing that is supposed to connect to that end. And then the other end of the resistor goes over here to the pin. What pin is this? A dud pin, pin 6 on the rectifier tube. So the way this is supposed to work, like I said, let me get my bearings straight again. So the cathode of the rectifier tube is supposed to only have the end of the surge current limiting resistor connected to it, and then we go over here and connect to pin 6, the tie point pin on this rectifier tube. And what's supposed to connect here is the primary B plus feed wire from our audio output transformer, as well as the input section of the filter capacitor and this 2.2 k ohm resistor. And then of course the other end of the 2.2 k connects to the screen grid of the audio output tube, as well as the output filter capacitor. Well, the way it's connected up here, our B plus input to the primary of the audio output transformer is connected directly to the cathode of the rectifier tube. No filter capacitor there. And then we have our surge current limiting resistor, and also the plate bypass cap for the output tube was connected between plate of the output tube pin 3 and the cathode of the rectifier, when the plate should have gone right here to our tie point pin, pin 6 here. So here's the schematic. R11, the 15 ohm surge current limiting resistor, connects to the cathode. That's our DC output of the rectifier. Other end of that resistor connects to the first filter capacitor, the 40 microfarad cap. And then also, coming off of that tie point, we go up here to R10, which is the 2.2 k ohm resistor. And then that goes down to C11, which is the 20 microfarad filter capacitor. And then also coming off of this first tie point, off of the first filter capacitor, we go up to our B plus feed to the output transformer, and then C9, that's our capacitor that's across the output transformer. So we need to make those wiring connections, those wiring changes, and have it like it's supposed to be. And while we're at it, I'm going to go ahead and replace this 15 ohm resistor. It measures like 8 ohms and it looks like it's gotten hot, so we'll just go ahead and get rid of it and put a new one in there. Well, that resistor was on the verge of failure anyway. Whenever I cut it loose, it just popped apart on me, so this thing it needed to be replaced anyhow. We had the filter capacitors replaced. I had to move the terminal strip to the rear apron of the chassis because couldn't very well put it up here. And then this is our plate to grid coupling cap for the output tube. And this other capacitor down in here is our plate bypass cap. This is our cathode bypass cap. And our 15 ohm surge current limiting resistor is under here too. So I think before we go any further, this would be a good time to run a performance test and make sure that we don't have any new problems. And if we don't, then we can proceed with replacing these other 4 capacitors here. Alright, we're connected through the dim bulb tester. We have tube illumination. And I hear static out of the speaker. That's a good sign.
WMOX. About the podcast not. Resolution. Very boring. The Washington.
And like I've said in the other video, the selectivity of these is not great because we don't have the benefit of an IF amplifier stage and dual IF transformers, so
Continue. The Catholic.
Hey, that's for the team. Putty voices. What animated series is Putty's voice in?
and there's also no AVC circuit on these. Like I mentioned previously, these were a cheap $10 radio meant for local reception. That's about all they're good for. But for what they are, they do pretty good. Alright, all the capacitors are replaced, and I repaired this wire going to the IF transformer. I cheated. Technically, I should have removed the transformer and completely rewired it, but I'm running out of wire and just not in the mood to do all that today, so I just insulated the compromised areas with heat shrink tubing, and we're going to let it go. Generally, my rule on wiring is let sleeping dogs lie. If I don't have to move it, I don't move it, and that way the insulation won't fall off of it. You know, I'm not overjoyed about rewiring a radio, but if I have to, I will, but I don't like doing it. Alright, as far as this speaker, I tried resoldering the tabs here where the voice coil wires go up into the speaker. No luck. I tried probing the wires down here to eliminate the possibility of a bad connection here on these terminals. I'm still getting a reading in the high megohm range, so something's up with this voice coil. So unfortunately, I don't see any other way around it. We're going to have to remove this speaker and replace it with something else. And like I said in the last video, the problem's not going to be finding a 4-inch speaker that will fit in this on this chassis. The problem's going to be mounting this audio output transformer, since newer speakers don't have provisions for that. Alright, I've got the antenna disconnected, so to attenuate the signal, obviously I haven't changed out the speaker. I'm just going to peak these IF trimmers by ear and see, just do it that way. These may be peaked out. Okay, that one was a little bit off. And there's no trimmer for the RF section on the capacitor. There's a oscillator section, which we'll worry about that later. But we'll clip the antenna back to it now and see how it does.
Throwing it back for a Thursday. Old school 150. CNR. Some topic. And we reminisce together.
I can tell you this speaker don't have a lot of bass.
And
I may look and see if I can find something that'll sound better. That one's kind of
Cologne and
tinny.
Praise 95.9 FM and Praise 910 AM.
Yeah, understatement. Because it's true. Yeah. You know, you can be walking by somebody and it makes you think of your ex. Yeah, Dan Beyer brought up Michael Jordan cologne. Yes. That he used to rock it. I'll tell you what OBJ rocks. I know what OBJ rocks. Oh, I did too. Rick Martell's.
Yeah, 1010 and 1450 both run the same sports programming in the afternoon, despite the fact that both stations are owned by different people and have basically the same coverage area. So
I'm telling you, number one, loans, the perfumes, the throwbacks on a Throwback Thursday. And then there's like a secondary question here.
and then before they run the sports programming, they run a religious program that can also be heard on 1390 at the same time in the afternoon. So it just makes you wonder, could they not come up with something different than what another station is carrying, or is this just a case of they're picking up whatever programming they can get the cheapest, and it don't matter that another station is running it?
Their selection of hard to find bourbons and scotches is sick. And if you're celebrating for birthdays, weddings, anytime friends gather, make one stop at Ferdy's Discount Wine and Liquor, 721 Highway 19 North. Ferdy's, lifting spirits for generations.
Tonight we'll come back and tune across it and see if we can get any distant stations. I'm really not looking for too many, unless maybe some of the, maybe a couple of powerhouses might come in though, but then we're going to have to dismount this output transformer and figure out a way to mount it to our new speaker or put it somewhere on the chassis or whatever. You know, back in the old days, replacement speakers had a place on to mount a transformer, because it was just a given that most everything was tube based, and even some of the early solid state based stuff had an impedance matching transformer for the speaker. But then when tubes pretty much fell out of favor and solid state designs came along that eliminated the need for an audio output transformer, then the provisions for mounting one to replacement speakers pretty much went away. To my knowledge, the only speakers that possibly might still be made today that have provisions for an output transformer are those 8-inch or 10-inch ceiling speakers for PA use, for mounting the 70-volt line matching transformer on the speaker, but that's the only ones I know about.
Call us. We'll be glad to help.
Queen City Medical Meridian is your mobility and accessibility solution center. The Pinnacle 600 home interior lift is the most compact stair lift.
But if it wasn't for this speaker issue, we could
This lift blends with
slide this thing back in the cabinet and put it to use. Alright, it's about 9:30 at night. Let's tune across here and see if I can get any distant stations. Let's flip the plug around so whenever I touch the tuner, it won't do all that acting up. Okay. Yeah, there's something. Don't know what it is, but it's something. There's something.
You're okay, Trump? Governor Brian Kemp has declared a state of emergency for all 159 Georgia counties, and the State Emergency Management Agency is coordinating.
That's probably WSB Atlanta.
Corey Presley has died at the age of 54. Presley suffered cardiac arrest at her home in Calabasas, California. Paramedics were able to regain a pulse before she was transported to West Hills Hospital, but remained in a coma and died later that day. Presley, the only daughter of Elvis and Priscilla Presley, just this past Tuesday, she attended the Golden Globe supporting the movie Elvis. after seeing that film, it took her days to process it. It was mind-blowing. Truly mind-blowing.
Couple more faint ones there.
Thank you, Manny.
That's 910.
5.9 FM and praise 9.
I hear another station with 910 bleeding over on it. That's probably maybe WWL or WLS. Like I mentioned, these types of radios are not very selective.
But I find it fascinating that they are through you and that they've tried this. Emergency. 35 million people in the Southeast. Guy, they're keeping.
Alright, not a smoking hot DXer, but we'll pull in a few of the stronger distant stations. It's certainly a better radio than those early to mid 1930s curtain burner TRF sets. And when I say curtain burner, I mean the ones with the resistance line cord that has the resistance element wound in it to drop the excess voltage across the tube heater string.
I'm gonna call it out when I see it.
Turn the volume up. I was trying to get WSM. Not having much luck there though. Wait, there it is. Yep, there's WSM, so that's nice. We can at least get one AM station that I care to listen to. Now originally these came with about 25 feet of antenna wire. I don't have that much connected to this. Probably got maybe 6 feet of wire connected to it, so you know, with the proper length of antenna wire strategically placed, the radio would probably do better, but for what it is, it does okay. You know, not a great performer, but I've seen other 4-tube sets that performed worse, so we're not going to complain. So now our next step is to try to come up with a way to fix this speaker problem. This speaker not only has a voice coil that's essentially open, the voice coil is also dragging, and that could have been what opened the voice coil up. I've seen that before, where a dragging voice coil that was used that way for an extended period of time, it would eventually just rub the coil wire in two. And so yeah, we're going to have to replace that speaker one way or another, and I just wished I had one that either had a transformer already attached. I believe at one time you could buy these little speakers with the transformer already attached, but I wished I had one handy with the transformer attached, or had a place to attach one, because this is going to be a little bit tricky. Alright, we have the speaker replaced with the one we were using as a test speaker. For right now, And let me just say, this is totally unacceptable for a long-term service, but I have the transformer simply sitting on top of the speaker magnet with the wires soldered to the voice coil there. So really the only thing holding that in place is the wires. So in the future we are going to have to come up with another type of speaker that will facilitate mounting this transformer. There is no room under the chassis to put the transformer. There's nowhere else on here to put the transformer, so it's got to stay right there for the time being. But like I said, I need to find another type of speaker that either has the provision for mounting a transformer or already has a transformer mounted to it. And as far as an antenna, like I already mentioned, this came with about a 25-foot piece of wire. I just stuck a short piece of wire on here for now, and then I can clip a antenna to it as needed. So before we put this back in the case, let's fire it up and see if it still plays. Alright, I'm hearing noise in the speaker, but do we hear stations? Yes, we do.
Josh Jacobs would lead the... Be a very rich band. Yeah. You know, really? like there were 8 million to 1 odds on Josh Jacobs.
I mean, look, your favorite one you haven't mentioned, which is just say Drew it up. Say Drew it up.
But yeah, it really needs a longer antenna. Right now I'm using the cord on my Variac here.
But he didn't steal it. He gave me credit. And right now,
For right now, we're going to put it back together, and that's going to be it. The only way I might could attach this to the speaker is to get some JB weld and just put it on there that way. But for right now, I'm leaving it alone. This is not one that's going to be moving around. It's going to be on a shelf. Now, if this was something I was going to ship to someone, then yeah, I would have to do something to secure this. And like I said, eventually I'm going to come up with some way to secure this. But I'm tired of looking at this thing torn apart here. I want it back together, and I want to be able to use it. So for now, it's going back together just like it sits. Alright, we're back together. This is not the correct volume knob, but it'll do until I can find the right one. The dial is pretty accurate. We're not going to mess with any of that, so leave that alone. And for an antenna, I've just got a string of clip leads connected to the radio, and it's doing pretty good there.
Take on any goal. To help you follow your passions, reawaken.
That's 1010. That's 910. And that sounds like 670 WYLS, so that's pretty impressive if it'll bring that in at all. I've got 5 tube sets that won't even bring that in, so like I said, that's pretty impressive. That's probably WWL probably. It's about 4:20 in the afternoon, so we're getting to that time of day when some DX will start coming in. No, maybe that wasn't WWL. That was too far down.
The legendary studio.
There's some DX on the high end of the dial.
So lawmakers.
Big covering of the garments of salvation. Throughout this whole book of Romans, it's a bookkeeping term. It means to put to the account.
I don't know where that interference is coming from. It's not the phone. Is it the camera? Nope, it's not the camera.
Was after the fall, but we're getting ahead of ourselves now. But anyway, but I'm saying God, He said, I'll make herbs bearing seed.
You're to the point where you're cleaning up the mess, which is...
That's our local 1390.
800 help. Learn more at
1450/support.
That's SAMHSA.
I think I already mentioned these sets have no AVC, so they're just a bare bones radio, no AVC, no IF amplifier stage. They were basically meant for local reception, but this one seems to be doing pretty good. There was another brand of 4-tube metal radio similar to this. It was a Temple brand. They don't seem to be nearly as common as the Arvins in the sets that were built by Arvin with other brands on them. I had one of those little Temple radios about 30 years ago. I think the model number was G418 or 419 or something like that. And I don't recall that one being as good of a performer as these Arvin built sets are.
9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio.
Alright, well I guess that's about all I've got for this radio. Some issues that still need to be addressed is, like I've already said, that output transformer mounting, which is probably going to involve finding a speaker that is conducive for mounting an output transformer to it. And we need to find a more correct knob for this volume control shaft. And we probably need to permanently attach a longer antenna wire to this, but all that'll come later. But right now that's about all I've got for this. I'm happy with the results, and more to come later. Alright, it's about 5:15 in the evening. Let's get this focused in. So we have WSM coming in at about 5:15 in the evening. That's good.
I thought it went from this company to Thighmaster, and that was it.
I think Thighmaster was before Step by Step.
Yeah. I never had a Thighmaster.
And the humpback whales?
Why? There you go. Aaron Rodgers is going to sit there and watch the whales and determine what he needs to do with his future.
Out of control.
Okay, that's probably WWL 87. Nope. 840 WHAS. That's what, Louisville, Kentucky.
This report is sponsored by
Okay, that's probably either WWL or WLS.
They make it easy and affordable to upgrade your house.
Sau khi đứa bé được xác nhận đã tử vong, dù không có bằng chứng cụ thể.
So he's like, what?
Yeah, this radio is performing surprisingly well, given what it is.
That it took so long to find.
Atlanta's News and Talk with Mark Aram.
Driving home with your radio friends. Atlanta's News and Talk with Mark Aram.
Real spoiler to the Wednesday night in
That's
Woodstock. 619
WSB.
Turnbull in the Coolray Carrier Traffic Center now. About a 10-minute delay from the Ridgewalk Parkway exit 9 area along 575.
Scratch and Dent showroom today.
Hi guys, it's Mark. Are you...
To her after I...
6700 or go to johnwayne.com. John Wayne Service Company, your local home experts. Make that
See if we
call
can
right
get the
now.
Black Lives Matter station out of
You
New
can too.
Orleans.
John Wayne Service Company, license number 1785C. Some restrictions apply.
And the battery's dying, so I guess we're not going to get that. Alright, more to come later.